Welcome back. It is Friday, baby. TGIF. Jim Coyle with you as always here at the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joining me as well. So thanks to him. And of course, our good friend Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, make sure you reach out to Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Her 2 decades of experience could be the reason you get the home you want or not. We were talking basketball, and what did I leave off at, Alec? We were something.
Jack Benter,
Jack
who is
Benner,
committed to.
who I get it. There's timing, and is there any danger of Indiana alienating these high school coaches because they're not recruiting now? I know they are in 25, and like Xavier Booker, but there's not a lot of Indiana kids that they're really targeting. They are specific to a few, but that also shows that Mike Woodson is targeting specific people, not where they're from. He's targeting specific talents, and he wants to bring in the best talent that he can, no matter where they're from. And I get that, but there's just so much talent in this state. It's hard to imagine that it keeps getting passed over.
Yeah, I mean, historically, obviously, there has been. It's been a little bit of a down few years for some of the classes here, and especially moving into 23 and partly 2024 as well. But I mean, Indiana needs to win and needs to win now, and they need to get back to the point where they're not just going after in-state kids because they feel the need to. That's what got Indiana into a big hole and in a major struggle over the last 5 years because that's what they prioritized. And
but that's because you had a guy doing that who had no chance of landing players. He was recruiting and focusing on players he had no chance to land.
Yeah, but I'm going back to your point, right? I mean, he prioritized the state. He landed a lot of the state's top talent when it comes to guys who didn't go to prep schools. And he did what he said he was going to do and basically win back the state outside of the Trey Kaufman commitment to Purdue. He did a really good job of landing a lot of those guys in Indiana. But obviously,
unfortunately, they found out he couldn't coach after they got here to play for him.
Well, yeah, but that's a different point. But when it comes to recruiting, Mike Woodson is never going to alienate anyone in the state of Indiana. No matter what he does, he's going to recruit guys that are going to help him win. That's going to help Indiana win big time games and get back to the top. And I think any high school coach or any high school player is going to see that. And heck, if they're not getting recruited by Mike Woodson in Indiana, they probably don't think they're good enough. And they need to either get better or they need to do something to show Mike Woodson that they need to start recruiting him. And Indiana's not going to just sit back and go to the in-state kids because they feel like they have to. That's the one good thing in positive that Mike Woodson has shown here. He's always going to have that in-state pull when he goes into a in-state recruitment. But the biggest thing with him is landing talented players, no matter where they're from, no matter what class they're in, no matter what position they play. He wants the most talented players that he thinks can fit in his system and that he thinks can help them win immediately. And that's what he's gone out and done up to this point, and that's who he continues to target. And so when you look at a kid like Jack Benter, a 2024 guard, that a lot of people continue to talk about, why didn't IU prioritize him? Why didn't IU look at him? Because he is a extremely talented shooter and shot maker. But the biggest thing with Mike Woodson's system is he wants bigger wings who can play multiple positions, also shooters. But when you look at Indiana's recruitment of 2023 kids, Jamie Kaiser, 2 to 3 inches taller, just as good of a shooter, if not better. You have TJ Power, 6'9", 6'10", similar shooter who lit up Nike EYBL, the live session in Kansas City this past weekend. You have obviously Stojakovic, who they went after, a top 50 kid who's probably going to end up at UCLA. But you have guys who are 3 inches taller, much longer, and in my opinion, much more athletic who can come in and play immediately, and our class of 2023 kids. And Indiana needs to focus on 2023 before they move to 2024. Indiana was not going to offer Jack Benter this summer. They were not going to offer him in the fall because they needed to round up and finish their 2023 class. And so if people are hurt that Mike Woodson's not going after a kid like Jack Benter, who I think is going to have a really good career at Purdue, but he's not going to be someone who's going to come in and light it up as a freshman or probably as a sophomore. And when you look at the roster turnover that Indiana's going to have, especially at the guard and wing position over the next few years, you need guys who can come in, step in, and compete and impact the game immediately on both ends of the floor. And the biggest thing with him, he's not quick enough side to side to guard the way that Mike Woodson wants his guards and his perimeter players to guard as of right now. That's not to say that he can't get there, but there's multiple reasons why IU was still monitoring him, because he is a very talented shooter and player, but was not obviously prioritizing him like they haven't really prioritized a ton of kids in the 2024 class.
That's some great information. And speaking of, you mentioned TJ Power. He now holds offers from Indiana, of course, but Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, and TJ Power is great, but you got to land him, and you've got to beat these other programs, these blue blood programs now that are all in the hunt for that. Indiana was in there earlier, and maybe that helps them with that, but it's going to be all hands on deck when everybody starts. I'm surprised the Kansas offer hasn't come already, but
Kansas offered him as well. They just didn't offer him in the 12 to 24 hour period that he got from UCLA, Carolina, and
there you go. So he's got an offer from every blue blood that there is. So now Indiana's going to have to do something they haven't done since Bob Knight. They're going to have to beat multiple blue bloods for a recruit. A recruit from outside the state of Indiana, no less. And that would be a first in probably 20 years. I'd have to go back and make sure I'm not missing something along the way, but I can't remember Indiana beating North Carolina, Duke, UCLA on a recruit, since the Bob Knight era.
Yeah, you probably look at the most recent one being Cody Zeller, obviously with his ties to both Carolina and.
But where's TJ Power from?
Oh, you're talking about out of state kid.
Yeah, he's not even from Indiana. So if they're a state kid, you got a little extra pull. Man, when they're out of state, isn't he from Kentucky?
No, he's from New Hampshire.
Oh, he's up in the Northeast, up in the North. Yep. Okay, he's up in the North. I was thinking the other kid, but anyway, when's the last time Indiana beat all these blue bloods for an out-of-state kid? That will go back to the Bob Knight era, and I'm not saying they're not going to do it, but that's what they have to do on this recruit, and that's the danger of you passing up certain recruits and you gamble on these guys, and that's great as long as you land them.
Yeah, but you again, it goes back to you have to seek out the top talent. You can't be scared to go. If Indiana's truly going to get back to what everyone expects them to be year in and year out, and the top 15 team that they're expected to be in competing for a Big Ten title with this amount of talent on their roster, they need to go after these kids, and they can't be scared of a Duke or a Kentucky or a North Carolina or a Kansas because they've had more success than Indiana over the last decade here. But you have to go after talented kids to land talented kids. They're not just going to magically show up at your doorstep, and that's why you cast a big net and you go after tons of these top 50, top 75, top 100 players, because obviously you're not going to land all of them. You're not even going to land, a quarter of who you probably offer. But if you offer enough of these kids and you really hone in on those 5 or 6 that you really, really need and want, and obviously there's a big difference between need and want, and Indiana needs some of these guys. Duke, on the other hand, more of just a want. But Indiana has the pitch of, hey, we need you to come in and play significant minutes and play a significant role. Obviously, these offers change things for TJ Power. They change things for just about anyone. I think Indiana still is going to get the visit that he told us that he was looking to take in the fall. Indiana has the system in the role and the minutes available for him when he were to come next year. So that hasn't changed. Obviously, Duke has major turnover every single year with all the freshmen that end up going to the NBA, but they also bring in 5 to 7 guys every single year and see a lot of guys transfer out because of roles that they think they're going to get that they don't end up getting. North Carolina is an interesting one. Obviously, with basically losing most of their front court here after this year with Armando Bacot most likely obviously going pro, and then Pete Nance only having 1 year of eligibility, and then them losing number 1 overall recruit in the 2023 class, Gigi Jackson, last night to a decommitment. They went out and offered obviously TJ Power and then Zayden Eyes. So they're going after those stretch hybrid perimeter kind of wing power forwards who can shoot the ball. That's an interesting one. Has not a similar skill set to Brady Manick, but in their ability to shoot the ball, very, very similar. So that would be one offer that I would really keep an eye on. Duke, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets down there, but at the same time, I think he's going to take his time now and really look at the pros and cons of each of these schools and realizing that he can only go on 5 visits when there's a lot of other schools that are very heavily involved that have been for quite some time.
Yesterday, changing gears a little bit, Malik Renault met with the IU media for the first time yesterday. We'll hear from him later, but what was your takeaway from that presser with him?
Yeah, so now we've heard from all the freshmen, and the biggest talking point with all 4 of them, including Malik Renault, was their competitive nature, their confidence. They all have a different type of kind of swag when it comes to their skill set and what they think they can bring to the team, and they're just overall IQ. Right? I mean, Malik Renault, obviously teammates of Jalen Hood-Schifino, both very, very mature when it comes to not only their physical attributes, but also when it comes to the mental aspect of the game of basketball. And that's one thing that even Race Thompson said, Trace Jackson Davis has said when we talked to them earlier this summer when they got to know Malik. He's also just a big body. I mean, he knows what his game is, what his bread and butter is. But the one interesting part was he also realizes going up against Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis every day in practice, he can't move them like he could move some of these high school players. Even at 6'9", close to 240 pounds, he came in physically ready to play in the Big Ten. But he has realized that he needs to adapt to the different styles of play, especially in college, but also what Mike Woodson wants out of him, and that's to be a little bit more perimeter oriented. He said he's been practicing a lot at both the 4 and the 5, so I think it's going to be really cool and interesting to see the different ways that Indiana uses him, either alone in the front court, but also playing alongside potentially Trace Jackson Davis, where you have 2 lefties in the front court. He's tried to pick his brain on a lot of the different moves and aspects of how he's obviously gotten to the point that he has. A place that Malik Renault obviously wants to get to, and the way that they can kind of play that buddy system that we've seen so much success over the last 2 years with Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis.
Indiana is in great position as far as bigs right now, but then where's Logan Duncan in this? Is he still developing? Is that someone they're going to allow to develop later, or is he someone that may just kind of, I don't want to say get lost, but shuffled?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, was he's still a year young for his age. He came in needing to put on a lot of weight. He didn't do that a lot last year, dealt with some injuries, dealt with some other things going on. So this is obviously a very important offseason for him to get physically stronger. But at the same time, he was never a guy who was going to make a huge impact in the first 2 years. This was a guy who you get in your system, have him learn the system, have him get stronger, have him get just more physically mature. and learn how to play in the Big Ten and go up against guys like Grace Thompson, Malik Renault, Trace Jackson Davis every day in practice, and have him as a key player for his upperclassman years. And, I see him as one of these Wisconsin type big men who you don't really hear a lot about in the first few years of their careers. And then all of a sudden, senior year or junior year, right, has a breakout year, not in terms of just overall statistics, but of importance to their team, and is a guy who you can build around. And that's what Mike Woodson is looking to do. Obviously signed with Indiana and committed to Indiana under Archie Miller. So different, systems that they had in place and are going to have in place. But Mike Woodson still likes what Logan Duncan could bring to this squad in future years. And that's what you're going to see out of him in a junior, senior year role, not freshman, sophomore year that we're getting into now with him.
Yeah, Tim asking about Trey Galloway, whether he had surgery and he's recuperating. So that's the only update we'll have on that. He's expected to be out, 3 months, I think. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was about 8 to 10 weeks. Obviously, they're probably going to bring him along a little bit slower just to make sure that things are ready to rock and roll for the regular season.
Not to interrupt basketball talk with golf, but I'm going to. My man, Big John, just stuck an eagle, it looks like about a 80-foot eagle putt that he just stuck. He's 1 under, baby. My man, he's going to make the cut. Looking forward to that. Yeah, the competitive nature you talked about, that is just something that we've heard from all those guys. But that's going to be something great that I think is going to benefit that team like they haven't had in a while, because those guys want minutes too.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have way more talent in front of him, way more physically mature guys in front of him. And at the end of the day, that's going to win out. And that's what Indiana needs right now. But Logan Duncan is obviously top 100 kid that you like to have at the back end of that rotation. Just is not ready to play significant and meaningful minutes at Indiana at this point in his career. But I don't think was ever truly expected to. And that's the good thing about having 13 extremely talented guys on this roster, where a top 100 kid coming out of high school is still struggling to see the floor come, probably middle to end part of his sophomore season.
Alec, what's up next for you, the Hoosier.com this weekend?
Yeah, obviously this weekend, gearing up for Peach Jam and Adidas for next week. So we have a few things coming out in preview-wise for those events, and getting ready for the last evaluation period, and then getting into some 2024 guys who are looking to visit, and then obviously some of the key 2023 guys who we've talked to over the past few days and week who are looking to get on campus in the fall that we'll have some updates on.
Make sure you give Alec, Keegan, and Kyler all a follow there at thehoosier.com and go there and for complete coverage of all the recruiting going on action. Alec Lasley, cannot thank you enough, brother. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you as well. Enjoy the golf, and hopefully we see some bad weather out